Welcome back, Queen, to another episode of Creatress of Freedom. I'm so happy that you are here, and I am Annie, and I am your host of this podcast, also known as the According to Annie podcast. We recently had a rebrand. In case you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are an OG, welcome back. Today, I wanted to have a conversation with you around a call that I just had with our Evolve Mastermind babes. And it was all about talking about like growing and scaling our business. And so at the moment, I'm doing some study around 10xing your business. And so I wanted to share with you just some key points of what I'm kind of learning and then what we actually discussed inside our Evolve business strategy call today. Because I think that this goes a long way for all of us, regardless of whether we are salon owners or just in business, right? I think that we are high achievers and we are constantly changing the goalposts and we're constantly wanting to grow and scale in all areas of our life. And so I think that this episode is going to be really supportive of you. Supportive for you, of you, for you. You know what I mean. Anyway, so we were chatting. So I asked the women a couple of questions to start with. So the first question that I asked them was, when I say to you, we're going to 10x your business, how does that feel? And there was mixed responses. There was, I feel excited, it feels expansive. And then others were like, oh, I'm too tired. There was other things that were like, it sounds like a lot of work. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So there was this mixed feedback, right? And then I said to them, what if I said to you, all right, we're going to 2x your business? How does that feel in your body? Like, what comes to mind when I say that? And they were like, oh, that feels doable. And then someone else was like, it feels a bit small, like I'm playing small. And then someone else was like, yeah, I guess I could do 2x, but I kind of feel like I already have the tools and everything that I need to 2x the business. I was like, okay, amazing. And so then I asked them another question and I said, what do you think needs to happen in order to 10x your business? And things were coming in the chat like, oh, I need more staff. I need to do more hours. I need to have a price increase. I need to sort out all the back end things. I need to sell more courses. I need to hire more people to the team. And there was all of this like more, right? More, more, more. It was all about the doing and the more, more, more. And then I said, what do you think that you need to do to 2x the business? And similar things were also mentioned, but it was just don't need to do as much of it, right? Like, yeah, I might need to work more hours, but maybe I don't need to double my hours like I originally thought that maybe I would need to if I was to 10x the business. So it was just doing a little bit less than what you were already doing. And so this book that I'm studying at the moment, he talks about, it's by Ben Hardy. He talks about 10xing your business is easier than 2xing. And so I was sharing different ideas and different tips with the women around how this like is actually true. And it's because when we think about 10xing, we do logically, our mind tends to go down the rabbit hole of I have to do more, right? And let's face it, you're an entrepreneur, you're already exhausted. You're already like doing everything that you possibly can. Every hour is already taken in of the day, right? Like, so possibly doing 10x, like that feels like such a stretch because you are like, I don't know how I'm going to do that, right? And that was literally what they had said. They shared with me that in order to 10x their business, they thought that they would have to do X, Y, Z, right? All of the things. But this study that I'm reading, this book that I'm reading, he shares that the 10xing is less about doing more, right? And it's more about being productive in certain areas. And so he talks about the 80-20 rule, right? You would have heard about this before. But in this instance, he talks about the 20%. So really focusing and honing in on your 20% and really mastering that 20%. And then the 80% is all about delegating, passing it off. Maybe it's like hiring an expert in that field so you don't have to spend your time and your energy in that area. And you just purely focus on the mastering of that 20%, going all in on that 20%. And so I was sharing with the women inside of this that he talks a lot about 10xing. If you want to 10x, you can't just 10x the business. You have to 10x every area of your life. You have to 10x your mindset. You have to 10x your spiritual practices. You have to 10x your health. You have to 10x your eating habits. You have to 10x your habits, your lifestyle habits. You have to 10x your boundaries. And this is why not many people 10x their business, because that's a lot of who you are being, right? That's a lot of your identity. And so he shares a big part of this book is that he shares that the 10xing really comes from shifting the identity, because what got you to where you are right now is the version that you are, right? And so to get to the next level that you want to get to, you're going to have to shift that identity. You're going to have to raise those standards that you currently hold for yourself. And a perfect example of this is one of the babes sent me a message in our Slack channel the other day, and she was like, she's doing some recording for her new course, and she's like, I was sitting at my computer and I was like, oh, like, why am I got resistance to this? Like, she's like, I just was sitting there. I was like, oh, like, I know that I need to do it. I've got it ready to go. I just have to literally hit the record button. And she said, and then I caught myself. And she said, I was like, is this what a 7-figure woman does? Does she sit here and procrastinate, or does she just hit the fucking record button? And she's like, just that thought of catching that for myself was enough to make me hit record. And I was like, exactly. And so then I was resharing this inside Evolve, and I was saying to them, like, it is all about who are you becoming, right? Who is the woman that you are becoming? That's who you need to focus on, not the woman that you've been, not the woman that you are right now, because that woman has got you to where you are right now. In order to 10x, you need to become somebody else. You need to let go of past versions of yourself, right? You have to let go of those standards that you once held for yourself, because if you're 10xing every other area of your life. And so as we were having this conversation, the women were like, okay, right, yeah, I see that, perhaps I'm the one that's getting in the way. And I was like, yeah, and same, I'm walking this path with you. And I too feel like I was sharing with them that I reflected over the last month, and I was like, okay, yeah, I had some wins, I had some celebrations, but like, did I really have anything that majorly moved the needle forward? And I don't believe that I did. And so when we talk about 10xing, it's like, well, why? Why was there nothing that was like a needle mover? And I was sharing with them that because my 80% was made up of distractions. And so if we're going to focus in on 20%, like, what is that 20%? And for me, that 20% is really like honing in on my coaching. It's really creating really like great, valuable content. And the 80% is just so much fluff, right? It's all of the fluff that could be delegated, that could be eliminated, that really is just not moving the needle forward, but it's creating busyness, right? And when we pretend that we are busy, well, then we have this satisfaction of, well, at least I did something today, right? But was it anything that actually moved the needle forward? And so for me, my biggest distraction that I have realized is Instagram. It is honestly the death of me. And if you've listened to different podcasts, different episodes, you will have heard me say, that's it, I'm done, I'm getting off it. And then I end up resorting to stay on it because I'm like, well, a lot of my business is on Instagram. And so then I like stay on Instagram. But yes, I do a lot of work from Instagram, but I also get very caught in the fucking aimlessly scrolling. As one of the girls in Evolve said, the doomsday scrolling, right? That is what I get stuck into. I'm human too. And I hate it. I hate it. I can feel myself scrolling through my phone, and I can catch the awareness of it and still keep scrolling. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is terrible. Like, we need to shift this. This is so bad. You've got the awareness and you're still choosing to go down this rabbit hole of scrolling for the next half an hour, whatever that looks like. And I was like, there's so many other things that I want to do within my business. Like, I'm currently writing a book. I also am in the processes of creating an oracle deck, right? I love my podcast. So I love being able to record episodes for the podcast, whether that's personal things that I'm working through, reflections that I've had, or different things that are happening inside my spaces. That is like, they're the things that really light me up. But yet, my mind goes with this story of like, oh, I just don't have the time to be able to do those things. And it's like, well, hold on. Let's open up your screen time, Annie, and see how much time you spent on Instagram. And, maybe it's like 5 hours a day, right? And now I can be brutally honest with myself that 5 hours of that was not doing stuff on the business. There was definitely a large chunk of that time that was just scrolling, just beating myself up around watching everyone's highlight reel, air quotation marks, highlight reel of the life that they're living. And even like, is it even true, right? Is it even true? I know different coaches that uh, take screenshots of Stripe accounts and post them as their own, and then it's not even their bank account, right? Like, this is what happens in the online space. And it's just the integrity that I hold is so high for myself and my business that those things just don't land for me. That then I end up going in this like spiral of like, oh, I'm so frustrated and annoyed at what's happening on the online space, and how the people are really forgetting about what it's about. And it's just such this highlight reel, and I go through this like rabbit hole, and then that lowers my vibration. And when my vibration is lowered, that stops me from being able to attract all of my desires. And so if I have this awareness around this, then it's like, okay, we have to eliminate Instagram out of our life, right? To a certain degree. So what does that look like? How do I still, maintain a business but shift the way that I do things? And so I've been feeling into this of like, there's multiple ways to grow a business. Their businesses were super successful before social media came out, right? So let's not get caught up in that trap. Also, social media is property you do not own. The founders could close down the program, and if you are heavily relying purely on that, you're screwed. You literally lose all of your client base because you put all of your eggs into one basket. And so, do I really want to spend all of my time on a platform that potentially I do not own, that potentially could be closed down tomorrow? Like, how would that make me feel if Instagram closed down tomorrow? All of that time and energy and effort that I put into creating content day in, day out, gone. And so, this has really made me think, if I'm going to 10x the business, which really means that I need to 10x every area of my life, what does that look like? And getting off Instagram is one of those things. So from here, I've decided that I'm going to, the content that I want to share, honestly, I feel like sometimes even with Instagram, the content that I want to share is not long enough for me to share what I want to share. And so that's why I love the podcast, because I can go into more detail. I can share more experiences. I can share more of the story behind it so that you can also see yourself in the story, right? And so I was like, okay, well, what if I put my time and energy into my podcast episodes? And then what I can do is I can pull snippets from my podcast episodes that become clips on Instagram. right? So I'm repurposing, I'm not constantly recreating the wheel every single time. I have this beautiful balance of me being able to pour my heart out and share the truth of what I'm feeling. You can hear it. I always say energy over everything. So you can feel it, you can hear it. And it's kind of like being able to be utilized on all of the areas instead of me spreading myself thin across my podcast, my email list, my Instagram, my Facebook. It's like, where is the one area that I can focus on? The 20%, right? Where's that one area that I can really focus on and then delegate the rest? And so as we're having this conversation and you're listening, like, I invite you to think about, like, where are you spreading yourself across the full 100%, but not really getting anywhere, right? You're not really shifting the needle forward. And in this book, they talk about 10x is easier than 2x. And it's because 2x is very transactional. So when you're wanting to 2x your business, you are thinking of it from a place of, okay, well, if I did $5,000 this week and I want to do $10,000, then that means I made 5,000 with 30 clients and I put in 30 hours. So that now means that to make 10,000, I have to put in 60 clients and I have to do 60 hours. And so your mind logically sees it from a very transactional place. And we also make it linear, right? But this book talks about 10xing is not linear because it's so much of the embodiment piece. It's so much of who you have to become that's not linear, because you could decide that shifts tomorrow, or it could take a week, or it could take 6 months. But the choice is yours to decide what habits you're going to let go of, who you're going to step into, who you're going to become. And then there's no linear, there's no time frame on 10xing, because that really comes down to your choices in committing and then following through, right? So as we're having this conversation about, growing and scaling the business, and, you really focusing on, like, what is your 20%? Like, what is the thing? And if you are someone that has a team, then what I would be encouraging your 20% to be would be leadership. Because if you really focused on the leadership, the feminine leadership for your team, the rest of the pieces of the puzzle would come together. Your revenue would increase. Your staff would be hitting KPIs. Your profit margin would increase, right? All the things that you want. Instead of focusing on every single little piece of the puzzle, what if you focused on one thing, the broader thing, that allows you to change all of those other things? And that would be feminine leadership. And if you don't have a team, then, like, what is that 20% that you could focus on? Is it like 200% customer service delivery, right? Is that the 20% that you focus on, so that those 10 people that you have in the salon for that day go and tell everybody else about how phenomenal, how exceptional you are, that they do the marketing for you? Can you see how, like, really honing in? So the 20% is really like mastering something that moves the needle. The 80% is the delegation or the fluff or letting go of the things that are really not moving the needle forward. And then it really comes down to 10xing your mindset and your habits and who you need to become in order to have the growth that you desire to have. We were sharing in the Evolve call today that he was sharing about, in the book, he was sharing about how this guy wanted to quit smoking. And as he was sharing about the quitting of the smoking, he said, I've tried everything. Like, I've tried hypnotherapy, I've tried the patches, like, you name it, I tried it. And I fail every single time. And he said to him, there's this guy that runs these courses, and it's all about breaking habits. And I think that, it'd be really, really helpful for you to go to. If you really want to go, then I will invest in it and I will send you to this course. But you have to really want to quit smoking. And he was like, yes, I'm done. Like, I'm tired. I don't want to do it. I don't want to smoke anymore. Like, I'm done. So he was like, okay, cool. No worries. So then he sends him off, and he goes and does this course, and he comes back and he never touches a cigarette again. Never. And he says, the guy that sent him, he says, I want to ask you a question. This is a few months later. He's like, yeah, he's like, what was the hardest part about quitting smoking? And he's like, oh, yeah, the hardest part. And I asked the women inside Evolve, I said, what do you think was the hardest part for him? You know, and things were like, you know, it was the commitment. It was the really deciding that he wanted to change, right? It was those types of things that they thought. And I said, the thing that he shared was that he had to be willing to let go of his friends because all of his friends were smokers. And so in order to become this new version that he wanted to become, that meant that he had to let go of part of his identity. And that was his friends. And this is why people don't 10x their life and business, because letting go of things that are very familiar, that are very safe, is fucking scary. It's so scary to let go of everything that has got you to where you are right now. And he was sharing that he decided to pull away because he didn't want to be around people that were smoking. That was making it hard for him to stay quit and committed to his new goal. But also they didn't want to hear about his journey of not smoking anymore. And so if he chose to not make that decision, then he would have been rejected anyway from the group, which then brings up our deepest wound that most of us have, which is an abandonment wound. Nobody wants to feel abandoned. But when you are so sure of your goal and your mission and who you want to become and the life that you want to live, you will accept that those changes have to take place. You'll accept that there will be grieving along the way. I have been through this journey many times where I've had to say goodbye to friends. I've had to say goodbye to relationships, intimate relationships, because they were not serving my highest good. And I'm so sure of the life that I want to live. I did not get to live in Greece where I am right now because I kept people in my life that were holding me back. I had to have the courage to let go of what was familiar and to trust that the path that was in front of me would unfold without me knowing what it looked like. So I have multiple times 10x'd my life from those situations. And I'm sure that you, as a high achiever, can sit here and think about those massive milestones that you have achieved. What happened right before that? I betcha that you had to do something. You had to make a commitment. You had to change something. You had to have the courage to let go of something. Something had to have happened in order for you to hit that milestone. And that means that you've already done the 10xing before. And now you've just forgotten and need to remember that 10xing means another level of that. That's all that it means. So as you're reflecting and we're having this conversation, I really invite you to think about, like, what is your 20%? What is your 20% that you really want to focus on? And the other thing that I shared inside the group was that when you are evolving your identity, it is going to require you to raise your standards, right? And so he recommends that you use the 4C's formula. And so the 4C's, I want to finish up with these 4C's. The 4C's, number one is commitment. So nothing happens until you truly commit. And I see this inside my containers where women are investing. As soon as they commit, maybe it's a financial win that they want to win for the week. They're like, yep, this is how much I want to make. They make that commitment. Then it starts to unravel. The second one is courage. So when you commit to something, you're going to need the courage to not only start, but to also stay committed to it. The third one is capability. So by you courageously committing, you're going to experience a good bit of learning, which is going to increase your capability, meaning that you're going to be able to increase the things that you do, the things that you're capable of doing, because you courageously committed to it. And then the fourth one is confidence. So these new capabilities that you have started showing yourself that you're capable of doing are now going to produce a higher level of confidence. So this identity is going to directly correlate with how well you can 10x every area of your life. But what happens is we often get stuck with, I just need more confidence first. But the confidence doesn't come first. The confidence comes after the fact of taking the action. Yeah? So the confidence comes after you start learning how to lead your team. The confidence comes after you start learning how to sell retail and implementing it. The sales come after you start practicing. Then your confidence rises. So I want to leave you with a couple of questions to wrap up this episode today. What is the current story that you are telling yourself around your life and your business right now? What are your personal standards and your business standards? And are you willing to change those things 10x in order to grow? And only you can answer those questions. If you have loved today's episode, then here is your invitation to come and join us inside Evolve. This is a mentorship container specifically for salon owners who really want to shift out of the way that we do business and leadership and really step into feminine embodiment, really actually work on the whole woman herself, because as I always say, you are your business. And so if you want your business to grow, then it starts with you. If you want your team to be better, it starts with you. If you want more sales in your business, it starts with you. And so Evolve is this beautiful container that really allows you to evolve as the whole woman and then let it ripple into every area of your life and business. So the application is found in the show notes. I highly recommend that if you feel the call to deepen the work around this and shift your mindset and really heal what the limiting beliefs are that are holding you back from stepping into this next level that you desire, and be surrounded and supported and raise those standards of like-minded women in your space, then use this as your sign and your invitation. You wouldn't be listening to this episode if that was not the case, right? Divine timing, everything happens for a reason. So if you decide that this feels like your next level and you're making that commitment and you've got the courage to actually follow through, you will see in the show notes the application, or you can come and send me a message on Instagram, or you can email the team and we can work out what it looks like next for you and allowing yourself to really be supported through this next season that you're stepping into. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I will chat with you very soon. Bye for now.